let's go. Stephen Clisby joining us from Australia, Sydney, Australia,
Right.
via Pasadena, California.
Correct. What a strange way to get here. But anyway, I'm here.
How long have you been in Australia for?
I've been in Australia since the 1st of January, 1999. I mean, that's when I landed for good. I was here 98, late 97, and then I came back again in 98 for a few months just to see how it was in the wintertime, because I lived in Holland for such a long time. I was tired of the winter, so when I finally got a break to leave, I came here for just vacation, first vacation I'd had in 20 years. And I fell in love with the climate because it was like November, December, or something like that. And here, other side of the world, it was summertime. So I loved it. So I decided I'd go back, and then come back here in the wintertime just to see what it was like. So I couldn't believe that it would be, kind of temperate, kind of a mild climate, a bit California-ish in the winter. So when I got back here, I came to live here from July, August, September, October. So just during the winter months, I came back and stayed for 3 months just to see how it was. And, it was cool. People walking around in shorts and flip-flops. So I was like, yeah, it rained a bit, but, it wasn't like being in Holland. So, and that's what I was kind of used to, 28 years of that.
Well, yeah. Rain. And then, of course, if you come from Los Angeles like you do, that's another place which is effectively sunny and blue skies every day.
Well, that's the thing, man. I've got, sun is in my DNA. Are you Irish?
No, I'm from Scotland. So sun isn't really in my DNA.
So, Scotland, man, it's like, I was there once. I was in Ayr. It's probably not the way you say it.
No, it is. It's Ayr. Yeah.
And yeah. But I mean, no insult intended, but it was the ugliest beach I've ever seen. I was like, I couldn't believe it. I was like, what is this, man? It was just mud, because it was in the middle of winter, So it was like, oh, it was tragic. But because my business partner, he's Scottish, and he got married there, and but the countryside was gorgeous.
Yeah,
it was beautiful. It was really nice.
Even in the winter.
But the beach, yeah. But that beach, man, I was like, that was so fun.
A tip for anyone listening: don't go to Scotland's beaches in the winter. It's just not a good idea. It's usually very windy. It's usually raining. It's always cold that time of year. So, talking about that. Listen, you're a musician, and just a guitarist, singer, songwriter, producer, etc., etc. Had a very long and very varied career, and we're going to talk a wee bit about that, because one of the things I read about in your bio is that when you were a young man, you jammed with.
I'm still a young man. No,
younger man. When you're a younger man, and you jammed with the famous Jimi Hendrix. How on earth did that come about? I mean, that you must get that. Everyone must ask you that question.
That's my claim to fame. Yeah. No, I mean, the thing is, I did. I mean, I was, like the story goes. I was teaching not a mentoring class, but a friend of mine owns a college. So now people can actually go to special. They call it TAFE here. It's like you can go to a specialized college to become an audio engineer, producer, and whatever. So, I mean, back in the day, you didn't have those things. You had to, get your experience by, waiting for somebody in the studio to drop dead to be able to take their place. So it was just, I mean, there was no formal education that you had to take. I mean, you would take engineering or whatever, but anyway. But the point is, I think from my story, I presented to this class. They asked me to come and lecture. So I had to tell them the whole story. So that meant I had to go back and I had to kind of like go back a long ways in my past, figure out what I did so I could show them the progression of things that I'd done to be where I am now, you know, and how many generations I've seen, you know, pass by. And the thing was, so that was like I think the second phase when I got to jam with Hendrix, because I was first in LA and I was just played piano since I was young, did a lot of singing groups and stuff like that. And then when I was 21, I went to Spain. So I went to Spain with a couple of friends just because, I don't know, we smoked some weed and decided, oh, that would be a cool thing to do. And, you know, didn't have anything else to do. So and one of my friends' parents had money, so he was going to finance the thing. So we went. I got back a year later and then went to San Francisco, stayed in San Francisco for a year. Then I decided that San Francisco was, that I wanted to come back to LA, but I got the idea to start a band when I was in San Francisco. So that was went to Spain in 66, got back in 67, stayed in San Francisco until mid 68, 69, then came back to LA, started the band, and then that's when I got a chance to jam. We played at a club in Hollywood called The Experience. And the story goes that, I mean, I've gone back to check to see if my memory serves me properly. You know, sometimes those stories, I mean, I've had a lot of mentors and managers and stuff and people that I really respect tell me things that I just didn't believe. You know, I was just like, oh man, you're lying, you know. And because I thought they were exaggerating, but in fact, that was not true. They were telling the truth. You know, it's like sometimes truth is stranger than fiction. So I had to check myself to make sure that these things actually happened. So I went back and I Googled the club experience on Sunset Boulevard. I got the Wikipedia, and there was a guy that we used to go there and talk to every day because we lived around the corner. And the band, we just really knew that club was there and we wanted to play there. We were like, man, we're going to, because we lived around the corner, we were going to like troll this dude every day, which we did. And his name was Marshall Brevitz. And he's a kind of really big, fat kind of Jewish guy, you know. And we, you know, just wouldn't get off his case. We were always in his office in the afternoon. We'd come over and screw up his lunch, you know. So like, until finally, after about 6 months, he said, okay. So he gave us the gig, but the condition was we had to let them use our equipment for the rest of the night. So if we played, they could use the drums and the amps, so they wouldn't have to do a stage switch. But at that time, Hendrix was like a god to us. I mean, he was playing as much as, the only thing you could compare it to was when Prince was at his heyday and Prince was going around and Prince was playing. And, you know, he'd show up, he'd do a concert, but then after hours, he would go to the clubs. And, you know, everybody knew he'd be in one of the clubs late at night playing, jamming until 5 o'clock in the morning. And that was the same with us, except with Hendrix. Except we knew Hendrix was in town, and it was likely that he would be coming to the club to jam. So the same night we played, our drummer, he left his drums because that was part of the deal. The bass player, he was a punk ass and was, you know, being trolled by his wife at the time. And he had to go home and had to get home quick after the gig. And I was like, you know, Joe, come on, man, stay, you know, because Hendrix might show up. Nah, you know, do it. So anyway, everybody left and I stayed. And then sure enough, I was standing outside at 1 o'clock in the morning after all the other bands had finished. And limo pulls up, Hendrix pops out, 2 or 3 chicks with him, you know, and then goes straight into the club and then goes to the back and sits down. And of course, he came there because that was the place to be. You know, the experience was like the coolest club and one of the coolest underground clubs in Hollywood. Whiskey A Go Go was like the main club. So anyway, you know, I went back in because I was just going to watch. You know, I thought, well, Hendrix is going to jam. I'm there. It's just like, well, you know, Prince goes up, you're going to go back in and you're not going to get on stage, you know, but you're going to watch. And so I got there and he got up out of his chair, went to the stage, plugged into one of our amplifiers, turned around without any preparation and just started playing. And I was watching him and my piano, I had an electric piano. It was on the stage at the time. And it was just him jamming. And then I saw, and my piano was there. And I was like, I was thinking to myself, man, go on stage, dude. Go up there. You know, I said, because nobody made a move, you know. And I was like, my mind was saying go, but my feet were telling me, you know, are you crazy? You're not going to go up on stage. Hendrix was like, you know, but that would be like going, you know, I'm, you know, like it was Prince or somebody, you know. And I was like, nah, I ain't gonna do that. But everybody was like moving around, jostling for position. And then 2 roadies came. They picked up a big Hammond organ and moved it towards my piano. And then they put it down, and then they went to move my piano. And that's when I took off and ran to the stage and said, hey, you know, put that down. That's mine. It's my piano. And they, you know, the 2 Hell's Angels kind of guys, you know, beards and, you know, big roadie type dudes. So they put it down, and I was like, you know, I just got to sit down and start playing with Hendrix. And he was playing an E. I remember that. And thank God it was E, because that was, you know, I was worried I wouldn't be able to play. You'd be playing some screwed up key. And, but he was playing an E, so we started playing blues, you know, and it was cool. And that went on for 3 or 4 minutes, and then a bass player got on stage, and we jammed for a minute. And then this crazy-ass drummer, I don't know where he was from or what he was on, but he was high. And he was really high. He was like, because, I mean, those are good days, you know, but he was high on something that was like really like taking him out. And his eyes were popping out of it. He wasn't keeping any groove at all. And Hendrix was turning around going like, you know, come on, man. And this dude, he couldn't handle himself. And, you know, 5 minutes, not even 5 minutes, a few minutes passed by, and we couldn't do anything with his drummer. So Hendrix just pulled his cord out, and that was the end of that, you know?
What a bummer. If you just had one little drummer there, that would have gone on for a while, probably.
Well, but the irony of the whole thing is that Richard, our drummer, he decided, because I said we lived around the corner, that's on the corner of Afton and Gower. That's like right around the corner from Sunset Boulevard. He went home, and it was like, this was like 1 o'clock in the morning, but something told him to come back, and he came back, and he was there at the very end of this thing, and he was trying to get to the drums, doing the same thing I was doing. So, but I told the roadies to leave my piano where it was. There was still no security, you know, blocking the stage, you know. But once Hendrix actually hit the stage, then security got really tight. So I could see Richard. He was trying to get through security, talking about, those are my drums, and if the joke in the band still today, to this day, is if Richard could have broken through and got to his drums, and Joe would have come back, we would have been Hendrix's next band, you know, because then, I mean, it's still, you know, it's like we still kind of talk shit to each other about that moment when we do see each other or when we talk. Like, man, you know, we missed our chance. That was our big opportunity, and it's like out the door.
Yeah, but
So that's
but at least you got 5 minutes worth. You got to jam with him, the great man for 5 minutes.
Hey man, I got to jam with Hendrix, so that was, you know, that was a cool thing.
Let me take you. I want to ask you a question. So you were in San Francisco in '68,
right?
Did you say? Was that not?
No, I was in San Francisco, and I got to San Francisco in '67.
Okay, so you were there.
June '67.
Peak acid, peak hippie time,
yes,
peak flower power.
That's right.
How was that up there? That must have been a lot of fun.
It was about 8 months before it turned, so I was just completely, you know, utopia. Like, we all stayed. Although, having said that, I did go to jail for being for weed. But in those days, the punishment. In those days, of course, weed was illegal. But not only was it illegal, but you couldn't even have a seed. So if you had a seed, they could actually charge you with possession. And if you got charged with possession, you go to jail. 10 days, 20 days, you know, a couple of months, whatever. And there was also a law called being in a place where marijuana was being smoked. So if you were even in a place where they detected that weed had been, you know, was being smoked, you were just lumped in with everybody else. So we lived in one house with about 14 of us. Some people had dope and some didn't. So police came in one day or one night, busted the house, and we had to go to jail. But having said that, it was still, I mean, there was still more West. I mean, I got a chance to go see, Electric Flag, Cream, God, who else? I mean, Santana still wasn't fully formed yet. So Charles Lloyd, Keith Jarrett, Charles Lloyd with Keith Jarrett in the band when he was really young. And all the San Francisco groups, Big Brother and the Holding Company, you know, that's with Janis Joplin and all these, and they were all playing at Fillmore West, and that was Bill Graham's establishment. And that all lasted, probably I got there in the last 8 months of the heyday. And then the harder drugs started to come in. So people, so a lot of heroin started coming in. And I never touched that kind of stuff. So it was on the decline. In the last couple of months, that's one of the reasons why I decided to go back to LA, because there was not, you know, it wasn't cool to be there anymore. I just thought, well, LA is better. I was actually, nobody was working, but while I was in San Francisco, I literally remember putting on a shirt and a tie and at that time, that uniform was like completely, you know, you couldn't wear a shirt and a tie, you know, because you were straight, you know. People thought you worked for the police or something, you know what I mean? But I was looking for a job because I had to make some money, and everybody else, they were starting to deal dope and all that stuff. I didn't want to do any of that. I just wanted, I wanted to play music and I wanted to earn some money. So I started looking for a job, and they started looking at me funny, like I was crazy. So I was like, nah, you know what? I'm going back to LA. So I went to LA. And that's when I decided to put the band together. And the dream was, because I knew Hendrix had started in London. And ironically, a lot of the bands and groups that I really liked Terence Trent D'Arby. I don't know if you know Terence.
Oh, I remember Terence Trent D'Arby. He's amazing artist.
Incredible, man. So he started over there as well. He got out of the army, but he never came back to the States. So he was like really huge in London first. And then I actually auditioned for his band for the second album, but he was feeling. I mean, he was I understand he wasn't as talented as Prince was, or as disciplined, but he was. But he had some things that Prince. I don't say that Prince didn't have, but he had just some different shit. He was like, a voice like his only comes along every 50 years. I mean, this dude was like super talented. He had everything going for him, and he made a fantastic album. But at the same time, his ego was he wasn't as talented all around as Prince was, and he wasn't as disciplined, And I think that kind of led to his demise because he was kind of jealous of the fact that Prince was like a consummate musician. I mean, Prince, Terence Trent could sing. He was a singer, a dancer, and a good writer, but he couldn't play anything. He could play a little guitar, he could play a little keys, but he wasn't like a virtuoso Prince wasn't even a virtuoso, except on guitar. But Prince could play, you know what I mean? He could play everything. So I think, so the second album that Terence Trent was going to do, he was feeling in competition and like comparing himself to Prince, but he wasn't Prince. And so he started telling CBS what he wanted to do and blah, blah, blah. And they said, okay, well, I mean, if you want to shoot yourself in the foot, go ahead. So he did make the second album and wanted to do exactly what he wanted to do. And that's why you never heard from him after that.
Such a shame. Hey, but you talk about Prince, obviously an amazing guitarist, but you ever see him playing bass? I've seen a couple of YouTube clips. My goodness. He can play anything. He can
play everything.
I have one of my friends, we're all obviously massive Prince fans, but one of my friends, he when Prince did his residency at the O2 in London, so that was
right.
More than 10 years ago now, but he did 30 nights, I think it was. And my friend, I think because he was working in the finance industry, shall we say, and has been a guest on this podcast, but he decided to splash out for, and I think I don't know how many times he went, 3 or 4 times or whatever it was, but then for one night he splashed out on the VVIP package. So he said that Prince came on, played for 2 or 3 hours, then you went into like what would you call the backstage, and there was a bar, and he played there for a little bit. And then there was another bar behind there, like a VVIP bar, a tiny little place. And he said he played, he must have played 5 or 6 hours straight.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, he was, he was like, in that sense, that's why Terence Trent couldn't, wasn't the same level. But because he had hit records, he fancied himself, being like that. But that you can't, Prince's come along as often as Stevie's do. Like Stevie was like, Stevie's another example of that level of huge talent and business IQ, as well as he had the whole package.
Stevie who?
He learned Wonder.
Oh, Stevie. I thought you maybe Stevie Ray Vaughan or something. I wasn't sure.
No, man.
Stevie Nicks.
One Stevie, dude. Come on.
You're right.
The only person I know that could go, besides Prince, that can go on stage and play for 3.5 hours, and they'll all be #1 hits.
Have you ever heard the rumor that Stevie Wonder isn't actually blind?
Yeah, I've heard that, but I don't believe that bullshit.
Have you met Stevie?
No, I haven't. I was the closest I got to Stevie was when I came to Australia. My Scottish business partner, we hired can't think of his name right now, Stevie's drummer, to play on my album along with John Lee. And as it turned out, in the last few days before I left Holland to come here, he had to cancel because Stevie had to do the Super Bowl, and he was on retainer. Jerry Brown is his name, and I knew Jerry Brown, but because they used to come to him, Jerry Brown, and they used, and what the fuck is his name now? Anyway, they used to come to Holland all the time because there was Stanley Clarke and Lenny White, and then there was Jerry Brown and the bass player, I can't think of his name, that set up this whole thing. They were like the bass player and drummer. They were the two most famous rhythm sections in the fusion era. So from the Mahavishnu, John McLaughlin era, that was, there were a lot of virtuoso players coming along. I mean, actually, George Benson came out of that pool of musicians in that style. That was where Al Di Meola, Chick Corea, Herbie got really famous from, because that music became popular at the time. That was, starting to blossom around the 70s, mid to late 70s. And so they were combining rock and electric. It was like electric jazz, basically, and free music, And so Jerry Brown, John Lee, that's who. So John Lee is the bass player. Jerry Brown's is Stevie's drummer. And I knew John Lee, and John helped me put this whole thing together. And at the last minute, Jerry couldn't do it. So, but I never got a chance to meet Stevie. I was gonna, and I actually got asked. I actually get asked to go on tour. I think there was somehow or another there was some connection where I could have hustled being in the background vocals or something for Stevie, but I didn't want to do it. I was like, nah. I was already jaded as far as being like a touring background vocalist, because I knew you got treated like shit and you didn't make a lot of money, and it's like a hard gig. And it's not very, I mean, it's kind of prestigious in a way that you think, I get a chance to play with Stevie. But at that time I was thinking, that was my business head starting to, fire up. I was like, I want to make some real money. I want to make some money if I'm going to do this. I don't want to be singing in the background or whatever. I'd rather produce. And that was always.
So when you were doing let's say a session musician or a touring musician, what was your instrument? What were you being used? What were you bringing?
Keyboards, keys, and singing.
Uh-huh.
So just vocals and keyboards. Hey, you know what? I can't do it now. I don't know how to do it. I did one Zoom meeting and it was really cool because I could blur the background. And I thought the girl that we were having a group meeting, and I saw her thing and I couldn't, and I was like, how do you do that? And then I was just looking at my photo in there and I wanted to blur the background, but I'm not going to mess with it now because we'll mess it up. But next time I'm going to learn that. So if I ever have a Zoom chat with anybody, I'm going to have my background blurred.
But I can do that. I can show you when we finish this. That's a nice looking microphone you got behind you, by the way.
Oh yeah, that's Norman. Yeah, that's my baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
I'm in the studio now.
Yeah. Well, I'm in a studio, but it's not the studio. It's my wife's office. This is show business. So I was just having a look through your biography as well, and there's been quite a few people who I'd like to talk about, and it's maybe not necessarily what you think, because I see you were with Shaka Khan, but
I knew you were going to say that.
No. Well, it's not actually. I say Shaka Khan, of course, because she's a hell of a singer. But I was going to ask you about the band Rufus, because I think, to be honest, those guys got a bit of a raw deal on that, because unless she wrote all the songs and wrote all the music, which I don't think she did.
Tell Me Something Good, Stevie wrote. I believe, I wouldn't bet my life on it, but the rumor was that Stevie wrote Tell Me Something Good because he was the one that sort of put her out there. Wonder.
Yeah.
Just in case and Tony Maiden and Bobby, the bass player, and Tony, the guitar player, they were kind of like the main guys in the group as far as the creatives were concerned. And because we did the whole Dutch, we did a tour around only Holland. So, but we did maybe 8 or 10 dates with them. So, of course, any band that you played with, we did a lot of, we did support for, I don't know how many bands. Did tour support. So, but it was all based basically on, the reason why we got tour support was because we had hit songs in Holland, but we didn't have, we had national hits, but we didn't have international hits. So the bands that had international hits, they were the ones that came, and we were the ones that got the gig to support. And so as a result of that, we got, like we did, that's when we did the gig with, we played with Rolls Royce, we played with Kool and the Gang, we played with Shaka and Rufus, played with the Mother Spinus, we played with so many bands that came through. And even when before we left to come to Europe, as I mentioned, Bill Graham, who was the owner of Fillmore West, which was that venue in San Francisco, and Fillmore East, which is where Hendrix made the famous, New Year's Eve album. He also had a venue in Pasadena, which is where I'm from. And the guy that he knew in Pasadena, he needed somebody to run it. The guy's name was Tommy Nieto, and Tommy went to high school with us. And so when Bill Graham got in touch with Tommy to run this place called the Rose Palace, and literally that's where we got to play with Santana, Led Zeppelin, you name it. Every time we got, we'd get a gig, then Tommy would call us and say, anytime there was anything big happening at the Rose Palace, Tommy would call us and say, "Hey man, you want to come and play with Led Zeppelin?" We were like, "Yeah, sure, okay." "You want to come and play with Santana?" "Sure." Like, okay. So that's where we got a chance to we've always been, or we were as a band always, playing support. And the reason was one simple thing: we did not have one international hit song. Everybody that is anybody that gets headline has an international hit song. Doesn't matter. Gloria Gaynor can still get gigs here she can. I Will Survive. Nobody's ever going to forget that, man. You say Gloria Gaynor's going to play at the Lyric Theater. Bam, this place full. This is like 35 years ago. still, because everybody knows I will survive, and they know Gloria Gaynor. Period. That's it. If Earl was still alive, I mean, unfortunately, he passed away, but we did some gigs. We hung out with when I lived in Holland. I spent a lot of time in London, so we were working, starting to work with Earl Brown from Hot Chocolate, and you know, I mean, nobody's ever going to forget "I Believe in Miracle." You know, like "You Sexy Thing," and all. I mean, that stuff's imprinted in pop culture, and nobody will ever forget it. Nobody will ever forget Boney M, for that matter. You know, Rasp, and you know, and Daddy Cool. I mean, as stupid as those songs were, they're still international. These dudes could tour on that shit for, you know, the rest of their life.
Yeah. Here's an interesting fact. The Hot Chocolate in the UK from 1970 to 1984 had a hit single in the UK every single year, 14 years in a row.
Oh, absolutely, man. I mean,
that is something else.
I mean, Earl was cool, but you know, Earl was it was Earl doing most of the writing, and he was like, I was always jealous of the relationship that he had with Mickey Most, because it's like Seal and I can't think of names right now.
It'll come to you.
Trevor Horn.
Oh yeah.
So it's like Seal and Trevor Horn, you know. I mean, Grace Jones and Trevor Horn. I mean, you know, Seal was lucky. I mean, I seen, you know, I was on The Voice. He was like my coach on The Voice. I was like, dude, hey man, I played with you in '92 at the Carré Theater in Amsterdam. Do you remember? So he turned around, you know, when we did The Voice, it was like, you know, the chairs are supposed to turn around. So he turned around, and I'm like, yeah, you know, what's up? And but I remember clearly in, you know, '92 we played. He just had Solitary Brother, that Adamski song. I don't think correct. I don't think, but when the Bird song, what was that? Crazy. I don't think Crazy was out yet.
No,
I'm not sure.
That was that came later.
Yeah,
I remember the Adamski song when it was a club hit before anyone knew who Seal was. It was just Adamski.
Yeah, it was huge, man. I mean, and I thought that was really cool. But by that time he was already, you know, like he'd already hit when he got to The Voice. When this was, I was on their second season here 10 years ago, and so it's like, you know, dude was, you know, he was already at super celebrity status. But as I said, without Trevor Horn, Crazy would have never been what it was. And he was really lucky because he only had, you know, Solitary Brother.
Killer. That's the name of the song.
Yeah. Right. And he had that. He had Crazy, which was a good song.
Good song.
Huge. And he had Kiss from a Rose. And that's pretty much it. You know, I mean, but they're all, well, at least Crazy and Kiss from a Rose were international hits. So, you know, and Heidi Klum was an international hit. So, you know,
that helps.
So you live on, well, I mean, you live on, you know, I mean, the whole celebrity thing is like, you can live on that for whatever, you know. So he's still milking that, and I think that's cool. So, you know, get on it. I think I'm a little jealous, but no.
Yeah, well, yeah, Heidi Klum, she's aged well. She's looking quite good still.
Oh yeah. But I mean, it's not really about her. I was, you know, it's more like it's really about you know, Trevor Horn. That's the dude that I wanted to hook up with, but unfortunately, we were in Holland, not in the UK, and you know, we just had to deal with the producers that did Euro stuff, you know. So exactly where we were, we had to take Eurovision seriously, you know. I mean,
man.
that well, we had to translate what we did, which was Sly Stone, Parliament, Funkadelic, into Eurovision. I mean, we had that. We were like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. We had to, you know, always think. You know, it was a huge contradiction in thinking creatively and trying to figure out a way to, you know, justify that in our own heads. Was, I think that was, it wasn't a downfall. It was just, it was that was kind of what held us back from getting the thing that we needed to be, you know, to be huge. And maybe in retrospect, it was a blessing. You know what I mean? It's like, so I don't look at it as it's just a journey. And you know,
100%.
I'm you know, happy that I got a chance to do the things that I have to do and didn't have to put up with the bullshit that goes along with it.
Yeah.
So a lot of times, you know, because everybody that we talk to, I don't know, are you familiar with Rolls Royce?
Of course.
You know, okay. So I remember we did a tour with them, and the keyboard player, he had a Oberheim, which was like at the time that was, you know, that was the Rolls Royce of keyboards. He had Oberheim, you were the shit, you know, and that's what separated the men from the boys. And I was looking at his keyboard rig. He also had the Yamaha electric grand. So he had an Oberheim and an electric grand. And like the Yamaha electric grand was like, I don't know, that was 10,000 pounds at the time. And the Oberheim was even more than that because it was like really, those were huge. I mean, now you can get it in software. I mean, I can buy it for $20. But then it was the thing. And so I remember talking to him going like, man, these guys love, you know. And, you know, he was a really nice guy, you know. We were talking keyboards and equipment. I'm a nerd, man, when it comes to, you know, tech and electronics. So I was saying, yeah, man, how do you like the Oberheim? He said, oh, yeah, man. I said, yeah, I got that when Car Wash came out. You know, Car Wash. I said, oh, shit, yeah. Then I said, well, what about I said, how do you like that Yamaha Grand, you know? He said, oh, yeah. I said, man, I got that when Wishing on a Star came out. And I got everything was associated with the hit song, you know what I mean?
Well, you got all that spare cash, I suppose.
Well, I mean, you know, no, a lot of times, I mean, a record company will, you know, well, yeah, you ultimately you end up having to pay for it, but still, you know what I mean? It was cool. It was really, that's, you know, those are some of the experiences, I guess, with these other bands.
And you mentioned before that you were on The Voice, which was that in Australia?
Yeah,
and
season 2.
And Seal was your mentor.
So for about 2 sessions, I think when we got to, at the time the format was you did the blind auditions and then you did the second was the battle rounds and then the showdowns and then it went live. You know, so at the battle rounds, myself and another guy, Mitchell Anderson, who's really a great singer. He's an Australian guy, but he does soul, and he was on the same team. And he had picked Memphis. I'll have to send you a copy of I've got what we call a sting, which is shows you. Basically, it's a 1-minute clip of the whole experience, you know. And so Mitch is he's quite a bit younger than I am, but he's still a seasoned musician, and we were more of a mature, you know, on the thing. Because when I went on, I was, I think, no, yeah, I was 67 when I went on. So it was a real, you know, I mean, they didn't know I was 67, but I had to tell the whole country I was 67. So it was a, you know, it was like really, you know, I mean, I had to decide whether I was going to do that or not, because am I going to be embarrassed about it, or am I going to, you know, I just thought in the end, I was like, nah, fuck it, I'm going to do it. And so, but Mitch, I think Mitch is in his, I don't know, 50s or something. Anyway, so we did Memphis, and basically, because it's the showdowns, I mean, because it's a battle round, you don't battle people when you sing together. You know, I mean, you don't try to out-sing one another. I mean, as soon as you try to do that and screw up the, you know, the whole idea, the presence of, you just can't do that. You fuck it up. And so we practiced our parts, and when we came together to sing, I mean, of course, the outcome depends on who the judges think sings it better or whatever. And but I think we were just doing our parts in the first part of the song, and then the second part of the song, we just let go, man, and just as though we were at a show, and we weren't singing against each other. We were singing together to bring the house down. You know, all our instincts of let's kill this joint came in, and that's what we did. You know, so and even today, right now, I mean, it got like I don't know, 500,000 views on on YouTube in 2 days or something. I mean, it was crazy. And so Seal picked Mitch, and there's another girl here. Her name is Delta Goodrum. She's like a judge. She's a big star here.
Yeah, she's famous in the UK as well.
Okay.
I think she's famous in the States too.
No, she's not really. She's trying to get now. She's just doing a tour with the Backstreet Boys now. But they had a save, and so she basically saved me, you know. So Theo fired me, and which I was happy because I didn't want to be on his team anyway, and no, I didn't, because I don't want to get into that because I'll start ranting about it, man. You know, it sounds like sour grapes, you know what I mean? But it's not. It's just that I didn't understand. You know, he had to come from this. I don't know. I was like, man, just be real. You know, it's like. Anyway, I got on Delta's team, and so went through all the way to the end, except the top 4. So I was like top 5, and fortunately from that, I got a deal with the bank to represent. I mean, it turned into a whole beautiful thing because like all the songs that I got to do and things that I did connected with the Australian public. So like even to this day, yesterday, somebody comes up to me while I'm at a table and goes, "Hey man, love your voice. You know, I still remember blah, 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 blah." I mean, so that one experience kind of got me the, the status of, you know, the sort of unforgettable status. I mean, because it connected with people here, an audience that normally they wouldn't get to, because I had people from little kids that really loved it. I mean, you know, 10, 11, 12-year-olds, I don't know, I connected with them. And then there's the above 40, 50, 60s, all these people, I connected with them too. So it was really cool. And then from that, I got a contract I didn't have to have a recording contract. I got the deal to represent the biggest bank in the country for a year. So that was paid 4 times more than what you would win if you won The Voice. Plus, you don't have a record deal. So that was
a win-win.
Really cool. Well, it was win-win. Plus, my face was on every theater, because we did a $1 million video with the song, but didn't even mention the bank except at the end, and it was just a song about being positive and never giving up and that kind of thing. And it was a good song because we wrote it. And so and they put this video. They did this video, and it was in every theater. It was in all the Westfields. It was everywhere for a year. In the following year, Commonwealth Bank advertised were the sponsors for The Voice. So for another year, the third year in a row, I was on TV every 5 minutes as a ambassador for the bank. So it was cool. Like that was better than winning The Voice, really.
And so, how old are you now then?
77 in November.
77.
Yeah, man.
Jesus,
November.
you do not look 77. Holy.
No, I don't feel it either.
No, you look fantastic. Jesus. Wow.
Well,
So, I mean, you're going to get up there when you're still throwing it down at age 77. That's that gives me a lot of hope, because I like kind of do the same thing. I want to, because I've got young kids. I need to stay in shape. I need to stay fit and healthy.
Man, that's a key. And the other thing is, my mom, she lived to 103, and she was in until the last 7 days of her life, she was like, she could sit here and have this conversation with us. So,
you got it. You got the gene.
Well, I hope so. I'm not bragging. I'm just hoping that that's the case. But the point is that a lot of people connected with that, and that was one of the reasons why the bank hired me to do the whole thing, because I think it's a matter of it's not just your physical state. It has to do with how you think.
Yes, I completely agree with that.
It's all about what's going on in your head, man. And if you really aspire to stay connected, try to keep an open mind, continue. I think learning, I'm obsessed with learning. So I never want to stop learning stuff. So I'm always, as soon as I close this computer, I'm going to connect it back up to my screen. And I'm trying to get my sort of what you call master's degree in audio engineering. So
really?
Yeah.
And you've been doing this all your life. I can tell you that I've since I started this podcast, this is one of the things, one of the reasons why I started this is like yourself. I like to learn, and I figured that the best way to do it was to get people to come and talk to me and tell me all about it. And then, so they can do all the hard work. And it's working quite well. But there's one thing I just assumed, because I bought some microphones and they were, $50 microphones. And apparently they're rubbish. And then I end up having...
Is that an M7 you got? Yeah.
SM.
I'm getting ready.
Yeah, they're really good.
I'm getting ready to get one of those.
Yeah. Well, I had to buy two, and they're not cheap. Anyway, and then I have a friend, one of my great friends, he does the sound for me. And I had no idea. I just thought you speak in, they've got a little thing here, the recorder records it, and you're done, No. So I was so pleased. If it wasn't for him, my friend, I couldn't do this, because it would take me, but it takes him a while, but it would take me forever, Oh.
So you record everything?
I do the recording, and
onto what software?
I have a Zoom H4n Pro, just a handy, just a small one. But we also have a big one. My friend found it because he's a musician as well. He's a singer-songwriter, musician,
right.
And so he knows all about the sound stuff. So he's quite good at that. Which it's great for me. It's brilliant, because otherwise, I couldn't. It would just be too much time. So the thought of getting a sound degree is appealing, to become a sound engineer. But 77, You're doing a degree,
Yeah.
age 77. There can't be many people that age doing degrees.
Well, I don't know, man. You know, so I'm not so worried about others. I'm just like trying to trying to inspire them to do. I mean, I just figure, you know, it just depends on how you feel. It's like, well, like I said, it's not so much. I'm obsessed with learning. Like that's my big passion. It's like,
Do you think that's
there are
your?
things I want to know.
So, do you think that's your secret of life? Secret, the fountain of youth.
I have, man. I don't know. I mean, sometimes I feel useful. Sometimes I feel like shit. You know. So, but but I know people that are way younger than me that feel way worse. You know. So, like I said, I think it's all between your ears, really, and I just aspire to. I mean, I'm fortunate. The fortunate thing is that have an insatiable curiosity, and the other thing is I don't use drugs anymore. Not for 29 years. I don't eat meat. I don't drink. I don't drink anything. Except water and stuff like that. You know, I try to. I don't even try to be as healthy as I can. I mean, I've just gotten. You know, what I'm trying to do now is develop habits. So, one is trying to meditate every day, for example. So not long, 20 minutes. It's okay, as long as I do it every day. Try to go to the gym a couple of times a week. Try to spend as much time as I can getting things into my brain. You know, trying to learn stuff. Cooking is my hobby, so I just eat. I try to eat healthy, and you know, a lot of energy keeping my relationships together because that's work in itself. And of course, taking care of business and playing music. You know, I have a 19-year-old son who's kind of crazy. I know he's all right. He's pretty cool, but you know, he's it's something else to think about. So that's like, you know, you're trying to manage all these things, and well, that's, you know, I mean, that's pretty much what my life is.
Well, I have to agree with most of all of what you're saying there. I still eat meat, but I like, you know, a lot of vegetables. I try and get as much sleep. That's the thing is I've abused all my life is not sleep. I used to think that I didn't need much sleep, and then I got one of these sleep monitor things and realized that I do. And you know, you don't drink. I hadn't drank anything until Saturday night, and we went down to Italy. Me and my friend took our motorcycles. We rode down to Italy.
Oh, really?
Down to. It's not from here, from where I live in Switzerland. It's not far. It's just a couple hours.
Oh, that's right. You're in Switzerland. I keep thinking you're in the UK.
No. So it's not far. So we went down to Lake.
Near the lakes.
Yeah, well, Lake Maggiore is, you know, in the train it's about an hour and 50. It's not far. Lake Geneva is only 40 minutes drive for me. So, but then our other friend, the guy who does all the sound for this podcast, he joined us. He drove his car down, and we ended up getting lit up on Saturday night, and I'm still feeling it today. And I've been trying to avoid doing this kind of stuff, but you with a couple of younger boys, crazy young boys, and then
that's the thing, you know. Like I don't think, I go places where people do indulge, and I can, you know, really have fun for us to a certain point, and then at a certain point when everybody starts saying, "Hey, man, what's wrong?" And I go, "What do you mean?" And I go, "Well, you know, it's not." I go like, "No, dude." I said, "You're drunk." I'm cool. I'm leaving, and that's when it gets boring. So when everybody starts to, you know, when everybody gets amped up, first hour is cool, because it's all, the banter is good. But like as soon as you pass that point, and it's just clear as a bell, and they all say to you, they all start going, "What's wrong?" And as soon as they start that "What's wrong" shit, I'm like, nothing. It's time. Oh no, nothing's wrong. It's time for me to go. And then I head out because I don't want to hear the same thing over and over again, because that's what you're going to hear.
Well, it's just pretty much exactly what happened to me, because we actually ended up sharing a hotel room, because I booked a hotel for Friday night, but we didn't go till Saturday, so I messed up. But they were very kind, and they said, "Look, seeing as you did turn up, we won't charge you for the first night."
Oh, really?
Yeah, wasn't a anyway. So we ended up sharing a hotel room, and yeah, I think next time I'll just get my own. But I went hard at it on Saturday night, and we ended up in a nightclub, which I haven't done for, I can't think the last time, years since I was out past midnight. Is pretty.
Right.
It's pretty unusual. Anyway, Steve, listen, mate, that was really fascinating, and I'm still kind of staggered that you're 77. You don't look like you've got a single wrinkle on your face, and sharp as a tack. But that was really, really fun, really interesting to hear somebody his career in music spanned more than 5 decades. That's pretty darn impressive.
My girlfriend reminds me all the time, because I think in 20-year clumps. I'll go like, 20 years ago. She says, no, it was 40 years.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
I'm like, what?
This is my last. This is what I need to know now. How old is your girlfriend?
45.
Perfect.
Yeah.
She's younger than me. Oh, that's what I like to hear, Steve. Okay, I'll let you go, because we've gone over an hour. But
cool, man.
do you want to publicize anything you're up to right now? Any productions or websites, social media?
Well, look, my Instagram and my Facebook and my website and my YouTube channel. So those 4 things are like really important. And what I'm trying to do is trying to get as many, I'm trying to get my YouTube channel subscription up higher. I haven't really been focusing on it right now because, like I said, I've been studying. So I'm more interested in, providing content. Because if you have these social media platforms, you need to have content for them. So that's part of it, is the music production. But the other part, which is a little bit more challenging, is learning DaVinci Resolve and my video editing. So, but you have to, everything's got a visual component to it nowadays. So I think it's really important to be able to, have some of these things under your belt so you can do it efficiently, quickly, and takes time. So I'm just trying to promote like all of those things. I'll send you some links.
Sure.
I don't know if you did get my website link, but
I did. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, send it to me, and I'll put it on my stuff as well, because some
Yeah.
The ones I was watching, some of the YouTube stuff of you singing, and you've got some pipes on you, Steve. Yeah. It's impressive.
Oh, thanks,
it's
man.
Very impressive. Yeah, very, very impressive singing.
Thank you.
So I'll let you go, Steve, but thank you very much for coming on, and let's stay in touch, and we'll speak soon.
For sure.
All right.
Take it easy, man.
Cool.